Hi everybody, and welcome to another Social Blueprint interview where we highlight people in the community who you may or may not know in all different age ranges. But before we get to today's interview, we just want to say at the Social Blueprint, head over to their website. We have so much more to offer than interviews. Calendar, you want to know what's going on in our community? Well, we have the largest events calendar in Melbourne. Resources, NDIS, saving money, healthcare. All those services are highlighted. And did you know that there are over 500 organizations to help you in Melbourne and Sydney? So head on over to the Social Blueprint. Now, on to today. Friends, we know that many of you are young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in training. Well, today we are joined by Steven Gringlas. And Steven is living the entrepreneurial Steven dream, nightmare, or something in between, depending on the day, or maybe even depending on the hour. But we're going to talk all about it, and maybe just some war stories, and how to just have some inspiration. And with that, Steven, welcome.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Hey, Steven, you come from an entrepreneurial family,
I do.
maybe in different aspects, more in finance and engineering than the arts per se. But as an opener, what was the dinner table discussion like, especially around being your own boss?
Sure. Well, yeah, I definitely do come from an entrepreneurial family. I actually make jokes that everyone in my family is either an owner or a director of a business. So I got 3 siblings and my 2 parents. And our Friday night table was always business related, pretty much. It was asking questions about the week, what was going on at work. And yeah, it was much more interesting, I would say, and very inspirational kind of growing up around that.
Right. Now, your path, you started, I believe, in photography and video, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Is that something that you always had a passion for?
I've always been very creative. So at university, I studied communication design all the way through school. I was always doing design work and creative work. But actually in uni, it's when I first picked up a camera. I was in my 4th year of uni, and I was actually trying to find a subject that I thought would be really easy because I was already kind of doing entrepreneurship. I already had clients. I was already doing design. And I kind of just wanted to get done with uni, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I picked up a camera and I absolutely fell in love with it. And then I started doing photography work and I started doing a lot of social media work, and I kind of developed it all from there. And that was my main kind of creative outlet that I kind of graduated uni with, as well as some branding and design work.
Now, I want to back up for 1 second.
Yeah.
Now, your father, as an example,
Yeah.
and I guess that's why I want to know that too, so you have an audience of 1.
Yeah.
Was he supportive of you going in a different path necessarily? You just mentioned that you really had no interest in going to uni, you just wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
Was he supportive of that?
He was always very supportive of education and university. It wasn't something that I always wanted, but it was something that I'm very glad that I did, and I'm happy that I finished it. But he was always encouraging, really, my whole family was, of doing whatever made me happy, and whatever I was going to kind of push myself and be the main version of myself that I am today. And I think that it took me a little bit of time to try and find a path that really worked for me. But he and my whole family kind of guiding me in the right direction, which made a really big impact.
And did you ever consider going to work for a big corporate per se, or was that just not a path?
Yeah, no, like I kind of did. I've always been very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
I make jokes that I was the person selling lollies from his locker at school, because I was. And just kind of always trying to find a way to do entrepreneurial work. But I did go and work for a company for a little while. I was there for about 2.5 years, and it was great.
Yeah.
So I finished uni, and then I worked there, and then I left and started my own agency. And so I got a little bit of that. It wasn't a massive team. It was a smaller team.
Right.
I think at the time there was maybe 8 of us. But now I kind of got a bit of that experience as well before doing my own.
Right. And that experience, were there hard skills that you learned there that you use today, or that you used right out the door?
Yeah, definitely. It was quite similar in the work that we were doing. I was kind of managing social accounts and doing content there and working with brands and companies. And when I left, I was doing very similar style of work. But when I started my own, it was much more social media and creative work with photography. That was kind of the main offering that we did. And then as the years went on, I expanded our offering and we basically became a full service agency, which since then I've scaled down, but yeah.
Right. And I'm curious about the skill. So the hard skill that you had or that you developed, was that on the video and the photo side?
It was photography. I did some video, but it was mostly photography.
Oh, that never. Okay.
But it was mainly commercial photography for social media or for products and websites. So I did some events, but I didn't like doing events. And it was much more for social media content.
Right.
That was the main path.
And also, does that then train you to look at everything through a social media lens, which is obviously so important today?
Definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's made a really big impact. I understand, or from 9 years ago, started working with Instagram and Facebook and the algorithms and understanding what performed, what didn't perform, what people resonated with, how to kind of curate a story or make a message that people would actually be interested in reading or watching or listening to, which is an invaluable skill set now when you have 1.9 to 3 seconds to hold someone's attention, because everyone if that, people just scrolling through. So that storytelling element and to be able to curate a piece of content so someone actually watches it is really crucial.
And do you think it is, you've done some of university as well, but a black art, if you will?
No, I think that there's a technical skill,
right?
But there's a formula to kind of what does and doesn't work, and you have to kind of manipulate that formula to your industry or to your niche to kind of make it work. But it's like anything that you do. There's a specific skill. Once you understand that skill and how to do it, you can kind of do it on repetition.
But do you think also maybe your gift, if you will, is that you can create something where another person, frankly, could spend hours and hours doing it and they'll just never get there?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah. I think just practice, you keep trying and trying and trying. And like, no one should go on YouTube this, but I have terrible old videos that are still live up there that I'm half ashamed of, but at the same time, it's part of the journey of how I got here. Of just making really, really average videos until eventually they got pretty good.
And don't you find that the journey, if you will, and you're obviously on the journey right now, people that are watching, Steve, I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but you're certainly on the journey.
Yeah.
Maybe take us back to when you broke out onto your own and you grew the business very quickly.
Sure. So basically the way I started my business was with social media marketing. I think it was day 2, I hired a copywriter because I'm not very good at writing copy. It's not a skill set of mine, and I could identify where those issues were. So I actually started with my dog's Instagram account. So she has an Instagram account called Maddie the Foodie. I don't really post on it anymore, but I used to go around to cafes with my dog and take photos of her with the food at the cafe. I taught her how to sit on a chair from like 1 month old. And she sat there, I took photos, and I would take 50 photos and then I'd send the cafe 10 and I'd say, if you'd like the other 40, this is how much they are, this is our rates, this is what I do. And just by the way, I can also run your social media. And that was pretty much how I got my first like 20 clients, and just kind of messaging, repeating. And I reckon I've been to most cafes in Melbourne now. Well, I did 5 years ago.
Well, that is some hope though, isn't it? Because that's certainly something that I doubt many other people are doing already.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. I used to go with my friends and we'd go and get free food, and you go and kind of sit there and have a great time. And then it was something that was unique. It was a hook. It's the same idea. I was just trying to get somebody's attention.
Right.
And then from there, I kind of built out the business. So I rented a little office in Grange Road in Toorak Village.
Yeah.
And it just became this little hub. I had friends who were entrepreneurial who came and worked from there. At the time, I was 23. We were all living at home. All my friends were living at home, and that became our space so we could be ourselves and do whatever we wanted.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun in there. And I built the team up to 6 people in there. And about 3 years ago, I started another business, which is a co-working business, which is in South Yarra in Simmons Street. It's called Yellow Desk. And the concept there was to create a real creative hub for different people to come in. We have a podcast studio, we have a photo studio, all the equipment and everything that you'd need to kind of be creative and work in one space. Because that was what I loved being in our little office on Grange Road, and I
Right.
wanted to do it much bigger. And having the dreams of being able to grow my agency as well and needing a space to do that. And eventually we kind of grew the agency. I had about 10 staff and we offered about 14 different services, which
Wow.
is a lot. And now I'm realizing was too many.
Okay.
And we were basically, I called ourselves a creative agency. So we did a lot of creative work. About 2 years ago, I pivoted the agency to being a performance-based agency.
What's the difference?
So the main difference in the way that I look at it is you can use those creative skill sets, but with data, and it's trackable to be able to prove a return on investment through marketing. So as an example, our 3 main services that we offer now is ad creatives. So they're the creatives that you actually need to run on social media. When we do Meta, Google, and LinkedIn advertising.
Right.
And we do email marketing. And with the advertising and email marketing, I can show you how much I spent, track all of the movements of people online, and tell you how much you made. Wow. So I can still be creative, I can still create beautiful assets, and I can still represent your brand online, but I can also track it. And then I can say, you spent this much and you made that much. And it positioned us in a really different way to our clients. When we were doing creative and it was photo and socials, it was really, I was always the first person that would get cut when there was a budget problem.
Right.
Because it felt like it was an extra. It was
sure.
something that you maybe don't need, and I don't really know if it's working.
Right.
It looks really good and I'm really happy with it, but when things are hard, the first thing to go is your marketing.
Right.
It shouldn't be, but it's what happens. But now that I'm in the performance side, when things are not good, they say, can I give you more money so that you can push it and make it better? And I become the solution rather than the problem.
And is that also where the tools today of measurement are just so much better than they were, let's call it 7 to 10 years ago?
Definitely. I think personally I'm a lot more educated. I think there was still advertising and there was still email that was happening then. I wasn't aware of its power, you could kind of say.
Yeah.
It is definitely better now than it ever has been. There's a lot more data. There's a lot more education around it. A lot more learnings and tutorials you can get online. But yes, it has shifted a lot.
And I have to ask this question.
Yeah.
Is there one part, I heard recently that somebody said that the email list is still the golden piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, it's invaluable. Essentially, you could look at it as, let's say you're an e-commerce business and you have X amount of people that have visited your website. And then from those people, one of the hardest things to do is to get someone to your website. You do all this marketing outside of it to get someone there.
Right.
Then once they're there, you want to capture as much information as you can.
Okay.
And the first thing that you capture is their email. Because if I can get your email, which is normally like a get 10% off your first order.
I was just going to ask that question.
Right. So essentially what you're doing, or the way I look at it, is you're paying 10% for that contact details.
Right.
And I would do that all day, every day. Because once I have those details, I can send you all the other stuff.
Right. Your CPA is very cheap on that basis.
Correct. So my return on like our email flows, which are like automated emails, when you add something to cart and then you leave it and then you get an email saying you left this in your cart. So that's what we do. We make those really annoying emails that you receive all the time and make you spend more money.
Right.
And on average, email marketing, or at least for our clients, bring in 20 to 30% of their online revenue. So if I can, that's really significant.
That's massive.
And most of the time when your emails are pretty average, it's more like 2 to 10%. When you make them really good, it can be up to 30, if not 40%.
Wow.
In a really good case, but 30%. And that's where we kind of come in, and that's where email becomes really powerful.
Right. So having that synergistic effect is so important. And it also, do you feel like you really truly get into the client then that way?
Absolutely. So we basically, when a client starts working with us, we do a very intensive onboarding. So we try and understand everything about that client. We have onboarding questionnaires that they fill out. We create a return brief, and we do up to a 2-hour meeting with that client where we basically just ask them every question we can think of, right? To try and get as much knowledge and information out of them into us. And then we go and we use technology to help us do further research, plus our own knowledge and industry understanding to create a strategy for our digital marketing, which combines the ad creative, the actual advertising itself, as well as the email, which creates this really beautiful loop for a customer online.
Right. And also, along with that, the trends, Steven, they seem to change so quickly.
Yeah.
How do you keep up, or is it incredibly important to keep up, I should say?
Yeah, it's definitely important to keep up. I think that, honestly, it's one of the hardest parts about the industry is that nothing really stays still.
The algorithms and so forth.
The algorithms change, but also the trends change, and what converts people changes. In 1 month, it's people dancing on TikTok, and you can put a product in the background, and people will click on it, and then the next month it's something else, and then the next month it's something else. And when our job is involved with making assets and making creatives, that we have to understand the business, the audience, and the trends to make sure that we actually capture people's attention to then actually get them to click the link. Because creating content is great, but from my perspective, it doesn't mean much if no one clicks the link. Because if they don't go to the website, it doesn't really matter how many views we got.
And is that where maybe in the last number of years, you went from originally just liking to do creative stuff to say, look, this is a business and people have to be making money?
Yeah, I think I don't want to kind of disregard what organic social media has, because it's very valuable. You need to have it. There's a lot of pros and cons towards that. We shifted because I wanted to focus on that data element and the conversion element.
Right.
I still like socials. I still post on socials. I think there's a great place for it.
Yeah.
It's just not where we wanted to make our core focus. But yes, there's a really big shift that has happened for sure.
So you've gone through that school of what I call, or still going through a school of hard knocks, maybe going back to uni times. That school is a little bit different, where you're taking marketing classes and so forth and so on, especially from potentially a professor that may have been growing up in the radio age. Any thoughts about education, especially because you're young enough to have remembered it, but have a little bit of perspective now?
Yeah. Look, I think education in general is important.
Yeah.
I think having education is great. I think where you get it from is now shifted.
Okay.
And I think a university has its place for a particular type of person. I think that it really helps people with guidance and helps people kind of stick to something, right? And I think that shows a lot of dedication, and it's a skill set in its own to be able to commit to going to something for 3 to 4 years, and whatever that might look like.
Even if you hate it.
Even if you hate it, but you do it anyway, and you go and learn, and you come out with something, right? When I was at university, all of this, everything was already kind of changing, and a lot of the time I found my information from YouTube, but the university would say, this is the task you have to go and do. Go work out how to do it.
Right.
And if you're not self-motivated enough to make your own tasks, then university gives them to you.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can learn in a 2-hour tutorial, right? And even if it's every week. But I would go home and I'd watch YouTube videos, and I'd go watch tutorials, and I'd go on Instagram and TikTok and follow all these amazing people who are, in theory, the best at what they do.
Well, absolutely.
And to be honest, I learn everything on YouTube. That's where most of my content comes from.
Right. And saying, where do you get that information from? That's really what's changed. So would you encourage that circa 20-year-old person that's out there that wants to learn, not sure what to do, that there actually is a lot of free information on YouTube?
100%. I think, honestly, there's almost nothing you couldn't learn from YouTube, or a combination of YouTube and AI together.
Yeah.
That anything you want to learn on whatever your topic is, whatever your interest is most likely on YouTube. And if you are motivated enough to learn a skill set, go and try it. Because the only way that I've found personally to learn a new skill set is to give it a go and then try it another 10 times. And then maybe you see if you like it or you don't like it, and you can try something else.
So when you see somebody on there with 1.5 million subscribers and a gazillion videos, there's a chance that he or she knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think also once you've watched enough videos, you get enough of an understanding about the content of what's good and what's bad and what you like. And I also found that I resonated with certain creators more than other creators, or a way that they would teach would work with me better than another person. Where at university, if I don't like the lecturer, too bad.
Right.
Where on YouTube, I don't like the video, I just go to the next one.
Right.
But I think that it comes down to a lot of self-motivation. That I've been very motivated to learn and develop my skill sets, and it's online if I want it. Right. But if I'm not so motivated, I can watch stupid stuff on YouTube as well.
Yeah, but it's also great to hear that there's an economic equalizer out there, because these videos, as you said, are free basically. And especially, we do have some North American viewers where instead of paying $75,000 a year for education,
Yeah.
they may literally get a better course on YouTube.
Potentially. Like when I was learning photography as an
Right.
example, there's a YouTuber, his name's Peter McKinnon, who's
Yes.
on YouTube, who I love all of his stuff. I
Yeah.
literally would watch every single video the minute it would come out. And at the time when I was learning photography, he was doing tutorials. He was
Right.
using the best software with the best cameras and the best
Yes.
stuff. And I just wanted to do whatever he was doing. And he would put out a photography challenge and I'd go do the challenge. And like you go and you get involved, and you know, it depends on how well intended these people are, but there's a lot of genuine people on YouTube who want to teach, who want to educate, and it's all there for you. I also have found in recent years that there's a lot more people doing courses.
Right.
And there's communities out there that you can be a part of, and there's different ways of getting education that is beyond the traditional. But at the same time, I think that works well for like my industry. I can't go and be a doctor by watching YouTube, right? So I think it is very dependent on the industry, but for marketing, it's all online.
But I would also say that a lot of other industries too, especially niches, it's amazing if you have a very specialized issue, what you can actually find out there. Because even as we started out, you're saying the difference between, you mentioned photo and video. I would have thought it's just pretty much the same, but you're obviously clearly there's a big difference.
Big difference. Yeah.
Using that, then how did you expand your skills to, as you said, you know, you hired somebody for copywriting, for the whole, maybe even data analytics. Have you just expanded your skill set?
Yes and no. I think there's one element is, yes, I've just gotten a lot better at it, and I've had more practice and I've tried more things. But at the same time, I've also hired fantastic staff who have really great skill sets, who can come in and add to the team and add to what we do, rather than kind of limiting to ourselves to what I can do.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there with much smarter and much better and have very different skill sets to me that they can come into the team and they can kind of help grow us.
And speaking of that, one of the skills is managing people. You're a young guy. How is it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's a challenge, I think, managing people. And I've kind of been learning over the years. I used to kind of treat everyone the same, or kind of manage everyone the same, or expect that I could, and learning that you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that everyone kind of needs their own level of management and their own
TLC.
style. Correct. And that was something that took me a little bit of time to kind of get my head around. And I think something else I've been learning how to do now is how to kind of lead and direct people in a direction that we need to go in as a company.
Right.
Still be friendly, but I don't have to be their best mate.
Right.
And I think that's been a skill set where I'm a pretty friendly person and I try and make everyone be my friend. But I think that I needed to kind of differentiate what that looks like in the work environment, which was difficult for me, but I'm learning that balance.
That's really interesting. So you're deliberately saying, hey, listen, we're here, we want to get along, but we're not necessarily going to be going out every night afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. And I still use my skill sets when I'm hiring people and interviewing people and understanding and like reading someone and trying to find matches in personalities that I think will join the team really well. I think it's really important. But I don't need to hire someone that I'm going to go out with after work.
Right.
And like I could, and like I love my team and everyone's really lovely and we do go out and we do stuff. But at the same time, I think that the way that I now work has changed based on that kind of understanding.
And I'm curious, as you said, your family being very entrepreneurial, your issues are nothing new under the sun. Do you ever discuss it with them?
Yeah,
especially because maybe there's a bit of separation which may be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I use my family as a sounding board a lot. As I said, we're all quite entrepreneurial.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've been learning that most businesses have a lot of overlap. It's something that I'm kind of, over the last few years, really starting to understand, that there's a kind of framework that you need to know. And then I use my siblings a lot.
Right.
They help me. I have sessions with them. I can kind of bring them problems. And they're also a little bit older than me, so they're a bit further down the journey. So I'm the youngest of four. There's a 15-year age gap between me and the oldest. It's like 8 years, 13 years, and 15 years.
Wow.
So they've been doing it for longer. And at first I didn't want their opinions, and now I'm like, hey, can you help me when I have a problem?
And maybe is that part of your journey as well?
Definitely. Yeah, I think a bit of self-development and realizing not to be so egotistical and take on some help and advice when it comes and I need it.
Right. Well, Steve, also part of that advice and help, you're part of a big community here.
Yeah.
Maybe, I know it's a broad question, but the Jewish community, what does it mean to you?
I think the Jewish community it's been a massive part of my journey. Being brought up, going to Bialik in a Jewish school, even throughout university, like I was in Swujas, I think it was called, like the Orges for university at uni, and just kind of always being surrounded by the Jewish community. I think the values that come out throughout the Jewish community have been embedded in me throughout my whole life, and is a big part of how not only I think on a day-to-day, but also how we grew the business from the very beginning as well.
Right. And do you feel that a lot of, we get to ask this question a number of times, is it's not if you could do it, it's how you can do it, so to speak?
Sure. Yeah, I think just having that community around you makes such a big difference. Just having the support systems.
Right. And especially maybe in the beginning where you're trying to get clients, it is not easy, is it?
No. Yeah, no, a lot of our first clients were within the community, using JSeek, using friendships, using connections, when people kind of needed help. That was kind of why I ended up just being a full service agency, because there was just people who needed help. I had a skill set that I thought I could be useful and I could help the community and kind of be involved, and it's a great way to start. And we still work with a lot of Jewish clients now. We're actually working with Bialik at the moment on doing a whole lot of work there. And yeah, so there's definitely a lot that has come from it.
Right. And you mentioned about going out and getting clients. Now, you also mentioned earlier on that when you were at the cafes with your dog, you would effectively prospect the cafe owners. Yeah. What I call the ask. Did you ever have any problems making the ask?
No.
That's good.
I think that I'm always happy to go for the close, I ask the question, I'll kind of have the confidence to kind of do it. And I think that it's a massive part of being able to start a business, is just being able to have confidence.
Young people, you have to see that episode. That is definitely clippable.
Yeah.
You do have to back yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
And do you also feel like you need to have a little bit of thick skin as well about rejection?
100%. You definitely don't always win. Most of the time you lose.
And also at the same time, on that note, because now that you have had a bit of experience, have you found any people where at first you did get that big R, so to speak, the rejection, but a couple of years down the track, things do change?
Definitely. Yeah, someone might not be the right fit for you now, but they come back to you later. You stay in contact and keep relationships up. And I think that's been a massive part of the journey as well, and just kind of building up that network. And I just never close a door. You know, like I never leave anything on bad terms. Always try and keep everyone happy. Like there's no benefit to that for anyone.
Yes.
And
you may scream to your business colleagues afterwards,
but talk about it behind the scenes. But like you never know where that could go or what could come of it. And I think that would happen time and time again, where someone I spoke to 5 years ago would be like, "Oh, I remember you did this thing once at that place," and I'm like, "Yeah, that was me." It just makes such a big difference.
And friends, that happens in every business. It's not just a creative business. I can assure you that. Steven, really thank you so much for your time, especially as I said, because there are a lot of young people that are watching. Yeah. Any closing words for them, especially those uni kind of age kids?
I think one of my biggest takeaways is that you just have to keep trying. And if you have a passion and you really enjoy something, that you can find that education online. You can go and learn it and just kind of give it a crack and see if it's good. Even if it's not good, just try it again or try and pivot. And I think that it's just like really important to have that self-belief that you can do what you want to do, and just go for it.
Thanks.